Today's headline is Retired Burglar. Once again, he emerges from solitude's depths. The subheadline says, tells another of his experiences while on a nocturnal visit. Invention and evolution of that handy implement, the silver pinchers. It says, tongs, said the retired burglar, repeating the questioning word of his visitor who had been curiously regarding in the old man's kit what looked like a fine pair of blacksmith's tongs, having, however, socketed handles. Tongs? Gracious me, no. Those are my silver pinchers, and there's something of my own invention too, but never patented. I don't know as it would have paid to patent them anyway, because the use of such a tool is, comparatively speaking, limited. And then I couldn't have gotten it patented very well if I'd have wanted to, because I wouldn't have wanted exactly to set forth in the specifications just what the tool is for, namely to pinch the size of silver teapots and that sort of thing up together flat, so that the things would take up less space and be safer and easier to carry away. I suppose there's never been anything of any account invented but what we wonder after we've got it, when we see how dreadfully simple it is, that we never thought of it before. That's the way it was about the silver pinchers. After I got mine made, every big man in the business had a pair made for himself. Before that, everybody, when he got a lot of silver stuff, carried it off in a bag over his shoulder. Clumsy way that was, and dangerous to the last degree. Lugging that sack around was a challenge to every man you met. To be sure, the hour at which we carried the sack for the streets was not one at which the streets were likely to be crowded. But what's the use of taking any such risk at all? And after I carried a few bags like that for the man I were in the business with, why, I just went to the blacksmith that made the jimmies for us to make me this pair of pinchers. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much like a pair of blacksmith's tongs after all, but made with a longer beak, you notice, and better finished every way, and made with jointed handles so it could be packed in a valise. It was simple, just as simple as it could be, but for all that, nobody had ever until then put it into use. When we had occasion to use the pinchers, we usually carried the stuff a little way from the house first so as not to take any risk of waking up people by the noise of pinching the silver together in the house. We'd get whatever there was worth carrying off together and into the bag in the old way, and get it out into the yard if there was one, or somewhere just a little way from the house, of course where we were sheltered. And then we joined up the pinchers and just pinched the teapots and coffee pots and sugar bowls and silver cups and spoon holders and all that sort of thing flat in about a minute. And my, what an improvement that was. Why, stuff that would have made as much bulk in a bag as a feather bed. Just imagine carrying that over your shoulder, will you? You could pinch into such shape that you could put it in a valise. Was that an improvement in the business? But the first time I ever used the pinchers at all, I came pretty near getting into trouble over them. You see, I was pleased and tickled over him, and being younger then, I was impatient, of course, to try him. And when I got a chance at something, why, I set out to put the pinchers to work right there in the house. I set the stuff out on the dining room table and drawed up a chair and opened my bag and got out the new pinchers and set in the handles and picked up a teapot and tried it. And say, it worked beautiful. But smashing this teapot together made as much noise as tearing the tin roof off a house. It would have woken up dead men, and it did wake up a very live one in this house, and I had to get out in such a haste that I had to leave all the silver behind. But I saved the pinchers and carried away also the lesson. I had the shape of the beak altered a little, bowing the two parts a little away from each other at the middle, so as to get a better grip on the object. Then, and this is very simple but very important, I had both parts of the beak leather covered with a heavy calfskin, doing away entirely with the sound of metal against metal when you first set the pinchers on anything, and those leather jaws making also materially less noise in the actual use. And I provided a leather pinching bag to pinch the stuff in to deaden the sound. And then, with the jaws of the pinchers beak leather lined and that bag to pinch the stuff in, why, the work was practically noiseless, and many a time when there was no place to take the stuff to, I flattened it in the cellar of the house, where I got it without making noise enough to wake up a rat. This is the modern way, and when I think of the time when men used to lug off their plunder in the old way in a sack, taking all that trouble and risk just because nobody had happened to think of this simple little invention of mine, why, I feel kind of sorry for 'em. And still, I don't know as there's any reason why I should feel that way either, because I don't suppose, as a matter of fact, our business was any more behind the age in those days than any other was. This article originally came from the New York Sun. This story comes from the great state of Massachusetts, being reported in the Boston Sunday Globe of May 12, 1901. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, Now remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we'll see you next time on Americana Archives.